Just don't F me up.
Welcome to the shit show. It's
Is
late
this
night
it?
edition. It's the late night edition of the shit show.
And how perfect that this episode of Just Don't F Them Up is with a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
The teacher.
The teacher. The teacher, the tennis champion, the mom extraordinaire, all of the things.
That's right. Best CD burner. Probably still are. I was going to say of the early 2000s, but you probably still are.
Probably. We could
I'll
ask
take it.
We could ask the students, the kids. They'd probably
Mhm.
say
Are you allowed to play music in the classroom these days?
Yeah.
Oh, like anything?
Well, I mean, within reason.
she plays a
There's a lot
mini
of
baby
kids
shark.
Yes.
This is Mrs. Kat Campbell.
Hello.
Pause for applause.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for saving America's youth as a second grade teacher.
One day at a time.
Are doing the Lord's work. That I can't say it enough. The teachers. The
The
teachers.
teachers.
Thank the Lord for the teachers.
Underpaid, underappreciated, overworked, probably depressed, some anxiety.
All the things. Yes.
God bless. God bless. You're with kids all day and then you go home to your own kids.
With
So-
whatever patience I can manage to save up. Yes.
Yeah. How long have you been teaching now?
This is my 14th year.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you. That is amazing.
Thank you. And I've only questioned it recently.
Oh no.
I'm even more impressed though.
Yeah.
It's been recently. Like pandemic brought on by the pandemic questioning or nothing to do with that?
I would say so. That definitely was a turning point. But since then, I have had just, every year is a different story. Each group brings in a new dynamic. There's new problems. There's new just relationships and things that we're trying to figure out. And I've had some really great years and I've had some really tough years. And it's just kind of an ebb and flow of what each year is going to bring. Last year was fantastic. The year before, was the year that I started questioning, like, is there something else that I need to be doing? And luckily I had my daughter that year, so I got to leave in March, which was, I think, perfect for me because I needed to get out of that situation and just move to something different where I could completely not think about teaching or school for months. And then I came back to a fabulous group of students, and then this year came. And I'm right back where I was about 2 years ago.
We have been very curious about a teacher's perspective of the pandemic because how did you do that?
How are you alive right now?
To be real honest with you, I have no idea. I have blocked out a large chunk of that part of my teaching, and my teaching team and I, anytime something comes up, even if it's like a song that plays that we remember, Justin Bieber's Intentions, that is one song that it was like we just had, that song had just come out or gotten big, or we had just discovered it, which means it was probably way later than it was big, but that was the song. I carpool with two other of my teaching teammates, and we would blast it in the car. And then COVID hit like at that time. And now anytime we hear that, we have flashbacks to like just chaos and not knowing anything about what's happening or what we're doing.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that just kind of pop up that take us back to that time, and random things will come back.
Yeah.
Great.
So at that time, sorry, this is just like a personal, you had your son, or how old was your daughter then? Or was she not born yet?
She was not born yet. My son was 2.
Oh,
And was he home with you?
Yeah.
Oh my God, while you're trying to teach?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Ma'am.
It's so crazy. I was just thinking about this today. it all happened so incredibly fast. Like I can still picture, I think it was a Friday. I walked into one of my coworkers' rooms and we were just kind of all sitting around talking. And he said, "Have you guys heard about this virus in China?" And I was like, "No, what are you talking about?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's like really serious. People are dying. They're like shutting things down everywhere." And I was like, "Oh, well, that's crazy."
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, "Oh, that's China, that's far
Yeah.
away. That's not going to really affect me." Monday, we come into school and it had been kind of spreading around the United States and things like that. It like had just gotten here. Tuesday, our principal sends out a message and is like, just be aware, like some school districts are talking of shutting down for a while, taking a week off or something like that. And then it was like the next day we found out that we were shutting down. And it was right before our spring break. So it was the week before our spring break. And we are told after spring break, like there will be another week off. Well, that's how it all started.
Mm-hmm.
So we are like scrambling to throw things together. We were printing off just random things that the kids could keep busy with, basically.
Just send them home with.
And just send them home with it because we wouldn't see them for 2 weeks is what we thought. 1 week, luckily, was spring break.
Yep.
So we sent them home with all this stuff. And then I remember writing out instructions for the parents being like, don't start this right away. Like put it away for a week, then take it out and start working on it. Like take the week off or whatever. Well, then we are getting ready to leave for spring break and our administration tells us like, take home whatever you think you'll need. And we're all picturing like, this is just going to be a week, right? Okay, we can manage a week at home. So we pack up our classrooms like we will be gone for 2 weeks, basically. And so then we go home and it probably was 2 or 3 days later, they said it's going to be longer than a week. So we got to figure out how we're going to teach these kids. And from there, it was just Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting with teachers at every single grade level, like figuring out what are we going to do, because we can't just have these kids filling out worksheets by themselves.
Yeah.
So that's when we were introduced to Zoom and Google Classroom and all of these other things that we had no experience with. And now somehow we have to teach 18 students, and we kind of accumulated and just did an all second grade class basically. And so it then turned to 68 students that we had to figure out how we are going to teach from home while having our own kids that we have to take care of that can't go to daycare.
Right.
Yeah, so it was a lot.
Oh,
How do you like can you see the students' video and like what if they're like goofing around and you're like you just keep teaching?
Yeah. And that was one of the hardest parts because you have no control. In a classroom, you can walk over to that student and you can correct them and you can, just the presence of a teacher behind you kind of makes the kids act the way that they should.
mm-hmm.
And at home, like there's nothing. And the parents are talking in the background. So we are overhearing their conversations while we're trying to have the attention of all the other students. There's little brothers and sisters that are popping on the screen. They've got toys in their hands. Like it was chaos. Honestly, sometimes when I was teaching, I couldn't even look at the screen because there were so many different distractions that were happening.
Oh my
gosh. What's the juiciest thing you heard?
I was just
parents
I saw one mom walk behind her student in just brown underwear. We heard a lot of swear words from the back, parents swearing at other siblings from the background. So the mute button was a real quick, we had to find the student whose computer is this coming from, mute them as best we can and pray that no one else will bring it up for the rest of the class.
I feel like there was so many updates to Zoom. There's gotta now be like a mute all that would have been so helpful at that point. Like mute all. but me. Like everyone but the host, you're zipped.
Wow.
Man,
Gross. It just sounds so overwhelming and like I feel like teaching is already super overstimulating. And then you add in no training with
No
this kind of like
warning.
Zoom teaching with little kids.
yeah. Yeah, and we learned really quickly that it wasn't going to work to have our kids on like a Zoom class for very long.
Yep.
So what we ended up doing is we kind of split up the work and each of us ended up making video lessons. And so we would send those video lessons out and then they would have digital assignments that they could create. And then we would have like office hours that parents could log their students on and if they had questions and things like that. So the whole grade or the whole class Zoom, that didn't last very long because of all of the distractions and everything. But
Yeah.
Honestly, sometimes the adults that I work with struggle. Like I struggle with that with them. I'm like, can we not be laying in bed or also like log off and put some clothes on? I don't
Yeah.
want to see you in your robe with nothing under it. Like you need to be clothed for our session. I'm glad that you're comfortable with me, but like be clothed and like shut off the background noise and like maybe quit walking around your house and like with adults, one single adult. I can't even fathom 20, 40, 65, 6, 7 small children on Zoom. Like I think of my kids when they're trying to be on FaceTime. The like shit show that is, even for my 7-year-old, like 33 seconds of attention and then that's it. On to the next thing. I don't want to do it anymore. Like he's like off into the whatever. Like, yeah, hi grandma. Okay.
Yeah. Can't pay attention to a screen.
no.
Oh, and then that's your job.
Yeah.
Long time with a 2-year-old.
Yes. Yeah.
And
No,
2-year-olds are jerks.
Yes.
So like doing your whole job every day with a 2-year-old, like, oh
Yeah, like do some jumping jacks while I go put my kid down for a nap and like how you can't like something has to go to the wayside. And then how long were you out of the classroom? Like when did you go back and what did that even look like?
So we shut down mid-March and then it was for the entire rest of the school year. So I never saw those kids in person again after March. And so the end of the year was so emotional because we had formed this bond from September to March. And then all of a sudden it was completely stripped and taken away. And I tried to do little things like my kids could sign up to have lunch with me and Knox because I had to feed him at the same time also. So we would have little lunch Zooms and we would eat and they would talk to me and things like that. And the end of the year, I usually, in a regular year, I take photos throughout the entire school year. And then at the end of the year, I put together a little like yearbook or a slideshow or whatever that we watch and I send home with them. And that year we had all these pictures from September to March. And then all of a sudden it was all like screenshots of our Zooms and pictures that they had sent me by email of them working on their assignments at home and stuff like that. And I remember playing it on our last class Zoom and just bawling.
Yeah.
And I had parents that were watching it with their kids and the parents were in tears. Like it was just so emotional because it was something that we just were not prepared for at all. And then we all, students, parents, like teachers, my team, we all had to do all of this learning together in as we went. And it was just, it was crazy.
Yeah.
Oh.
I can see why you don't remember a lot of that. Like the
Yeah.
trauma part of being thrown into it, the trauma part as a mom, having your 2-year-old being scared about the pandemic with a little human.
Yep. Not being
Juggling
able to
that.
have grandparents come over to help to give a break or anything. Like we
Right.
were all just, it
Mhm.
was just all us.
So isolating. I remember my mom was building a house just down the street from us when it was like starting, and it was so hard. Like she'd come and like stand in the yard. She was there like checking on the house, and we were like dying. And thank God, like our daycare stayed open because
Mhm.
she had a lot of nurses and like whoever, like
Mm.
all the non-essential people had gotten laid off, right? So like it was just nurses and like medical field and a police officer, and it's like my husband works at a grocery store and I a therapist, so like they had to go because he couldn't do anything from home and I couldn't work with them here, but it was so bleh.
Yeah.
Yeah, just remember the anxiety of all the
Ugh.
newness, like cleaning your groceries. The first time I did that, I was like, this is hilarious. This is hilarious. How is this life?
I used to make my husband get undressed in my garage.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, you may come in the house in your boxers. All of your work shoes, your stuff stays outside. You bring your dirty work clothes into the laundry room and leave them there. And then you go right into our little half bathroom and I want you to wash your face and hands. And then you can come in and take a shower in your boxers and socks. And he would do that. And I wrecked one of our like wooden doors because I was wiping it with whatever so often because I was like, he touches this door. And I was
Yeah.
like wiping, and just like that anxiety because I was like, we're fucked because he's working with the public.
Right. Yeah.
Like he's managing a giant store that's not going to
Mhm.
shut down that people could go to.
Literally can't shut down.
Yeah.
There's no break from that.
No.
How, like, when you went back to the classroom then, how do you even transition from doing Zoom and then trying to figure out how to teach again in person, but how to teach with COVID always being a possibility?
Yeah.
Post pandemic life.
Yeah. That was another hard part because, like you were saying, we were given advice to not bring anything that was, exposed to the public into our own homes and things like that. And now all of a sudden, our school district decided we are back in person, like full force. We are going to do this. And there were districts near us that were still starting the year virtually.
Mhm.
Oh.
And so that was kind of a panic moment too. Like, why is it okay for us to go back in person, but these districts are still doing this? Like, are we doing the right thing? Is this right? And so when we came back after that year, we came back, but masks were required. And so
Ugh.
you can imagine children wearing masks and
Mhm.
teaching while wearing a mask, and the kids cannot see your lips moving. They can't see the shapes that your mouth is moving when you're teaching phonics. Like,
Right.
it's just, that was crazy too. We got to the point where, like, why are we even here? It would almost be easier to go back home where they can actually see my face and I can see their faces,
Yeah.
not have this worry. Like, at that point, we had already done so much teaching from home that it was like, let's just go back and do that. And then, so that year it was kind of in and out, where we started the year and then we made it probably 3 weeks, I think. And then there were so many cases that we had to shut down again,
Wow.
Mhm.
home for a week, and then we would come back. And it was just a lot of like back and forth.
Mhm.
Parents also had the option of keeping their kids home. So at one point, I was expected to teach a classroom full of students while simultaneously having a camera in the back of the room hooked up to Zoom, where I had students at home that were listening to everything that I was teaching in the classroom and trying to keep up with the classwork that way.
No,
Yeah,
this
this
is
was
all non-consensual. Like this is
Yeah.
I can't, my brain still can't believe that we all lived through this. Like, we did this. You did
Yeah.
this. You taught. You had, besides healthcare workers, I feel like teachers had the hardest job. Like, healthcare workers, teachers, the hardest of the whole pandemic. Like, you lived through it. Here you are. You're still
Yeah.
alive. But
Yeah.
holy shit. Like, like, even just hearing that now that we're a little ways out from it, I'm like, is that even real?
I know.
Yeah.
That's
that actually
real?
happen? Sure
Yes.
did.
Right.
Oh my
Sure did.
gosh.
Isn't that so interesting what that says as a society to our adaptability to like a literal trauma? Is that like at that time there might have been a part of you that's just like they're just telling me to do this, so I will do it.
Mhm.
And
And
we'll
now,
figure out how to do it.
Mhm.
yeah,
No one's teaching me because no one's ever done this, so no one actually knows how to do it, but you're gonna do it, so you have to figure it out as you go.
right,
And I
right.
feel like the part about teachers is like they care, so they put in effort
Mhm.
and they like you try really hard. And I mean, not all of them are this way, but a lot of them are, right? Like,
The
you
good
could,
ones.
yeah, the good ones
Right.
try really hard. When who was there saying, "Oh, this isn't working, this isn't that, nobody, because nobody knew. Like you said, nobody knew how to do this. There was no standard, there was no nothing. And it's like, you guys just worked your freaking asses off
Mm-hmm.
and like tried so hard to just teach kids stuff and to be a solid presence
Mhm.
when the whole world was falling apart around everybody.
Right.
Right.
Like, yes,
Right.
you were teaching all of the things, and also you were a person who was a safe, solid person when
Mhm.
literally everything else in their whole entire lives had changed.
Right.
Right. That is like you're holding the container for such little people with
And
very
so many
little control over their amygdala, and you're just like, I have to pretend like this is fine because I can't scare them.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Oh, oh, and yeah, I was just thinking too about like you don't go into teaching for the money. You do it because
Clearly.
you care a lot. So going into this and having something like this happen, like I just can't even like the grief part too of looking back and like thinking about those kids or thinking about or the things that you see now that are like so clearly a result of the pandemic where it's just
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead. I'll ask my question in a minute.
yeah, I was just gonna say, going off of what you said about how teachers care, so they want to do such a good job. I feel like sometimes we're taken advantage of for that
yeah,
because
100%.
the way that we are paid, people
Oh.
think, well, teachers, like you said, teachers aren't in it for the money. No, we're not. But don't take advantage of us because of that. And people will say, and I'll say this too, like, I feel like teaching is a calling. Like, there's something that keeps me coming back every day, and it's that. And yes, I could make more money doing something different, but would it be what I meant to do? And would it make me happy? Would it leave me fulfilled and all these things? So
Mhm,
we
Oh.
stay with it regardless of what money
mhm,
we are making.
mhm.
Literally can relate so much. Same with mental health.
Yeah.
Not paid, great. We're not in this for the money. Although some people would say that we should be in it just because we care so much, and
Right. I get that a lot.
we shouldn't expect to like make an income because we should just care so much that we do this just to do it.
Yeah, I would imagine it would just be it's enraging to me, and I'm not a teacher, but it would just be so annoying when people are like, "But you get 3 months off." Like,
Oh, yeah.
I work 80 hours a week
Oh, yeah.
on a salary, so For
On a
crying out
teacher's salary. On a teacher's salary.
Yeah.
Hours
Yeah,
a week.
I always say we pack in 12 months of work into 9 months of teaching.
Mm,
Yeah.
I mean, we have to set a professional practice goal every year.
mhm.
And my administration over the past few years has been really flexible about making it more like self-care focused and things
Yeah.
like that.
Good.
So my goal literally last year and this goal was to limit my time that I spend on work at home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because you
And I
give
had
a
to
shit.
limit it to like only 6 hours a week of working at home. Only. That's what
Only
the limit
one extra
was,
day.
right?
So I'm only gonna work a 6-day work week.
Yeah, right.
Oh my
Cheese
god.
and rice. I hope people are like chewing on this and going, what am I going to buy my kid's teacher for Christmas?
I don't buy anything. I send them literal cash.
I love that.
I
That's the
just
best thing.
send a card and put some cash in it. Like, do as you wish. Happy
God
day.
bless.
Happy day for you.
Those are the perfect ones.
I figure you guys get a lot of like coffee mugs and like whatever. I would send liquor if I could send that to school with my kid,
Mhm.
but I don't know if that's kosher. So I just send cash.
That's all we want.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, my question was, have you, and maybe you haven't because you teach the same grade, but do you feel like you've noticed a big difference post-pandemic in like abilities of the kids that you're seeing? Like, are we all just like way behind, or has it sort of leveled off by now?
Right away, when we first came back, I would say yes, for sure. But by now, it's been 3 years and I teach second grade, so my kids have been there. So it's pretty much leveled off. And I think, I don't know, teachers had different opinions about using COVID as an excuse and just relying more on that rather than meeting kids where they're at, which is what we were always taught to do. So I don't think we can use COVID as an excuse anymore of kids being behind in their skills and things like that. I think there's a lot of other concerns that have set us back in different ways that are not pandemic related.
Like what?
Oh, so I came up with this theory about why.
Oh, spill the tea.
Yes. About why we are struggling so much, especially this year, talking with my coworkers about kids that just cannot listen. They cannot follow directions. They have no problem solving abilities. And we are just beyond frustrated because it feels like we are teaching to a brick wall and nothing is getting through and they are not retaining things. And my theory is this: we kind of grew up as one of the last generations that had inconvenience in our lives.
Mm,
What I mean by that is when we were kids, we had to wait for things, right? We had to wait for our computers to connect to the internet once we actually had internet. We had to sometimes wait to use the computers until someone was off of the phone. At school, we had to look up information in books and in encyclopedias. When we went to restaurants with our families, we had to sit there and be bored and color and do things. That's how we grew up, and we kind of have now, as adults, everything is at our fingertips. We don't have to wait for things. So as our generation and those that are younger than us are now becoming parents, we are used to not having this inconvenience in our lives. So when our children are struggling with something, we want to fix it as soon as we possibly can. So we are the first ones to jump in and say, well, let me just do that for you. Watching my son learn to put on all of his winter gear. Yeah, it takes a long time. And would it be easier for me to just do it for him? Yes, absolutely it would. And we would be places on time more often than not. And when kids are asked to clean up their toys, parents want it done their way because now we have this expectation of how our houses should look and how toys should be kept and how other people see our homes and things like that. So we do things for our children because one, it's faster and it makes it more convenient for us, and two, we can have it done our way. And so the kids now that are coming to school are so used to having things instantly and not ever having to be bored or having to figure out what to do for themselves because they're either always told what to do or someone has done it for them. And it's become a really big problem in school when we have to kind of reteach these children, like, no, you have to work for these things that you want to have and things like that. So I don't know, it could be way off, but this is
No, I think
No.
came to me one night and I was like,
Oh,
you know what, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
go on. And then my brain goes to like, you're working so hard at that all day, every day during the week, but then they go home and go back to
Mhm,
the instant gratification
Mhm.
parents. You know
mhm.
what I mean? So you're swimming an uphill, like, or running an uphill marathon or whatever the.
Your pool is vertical, and that's the whole problem.
Yes.
You can't swim.
Like you're going against an environment that's more powerful than you are.
Exactly. Yes.
We
Yeah.
talk about this too in our
All the time.
in therapy sessions. We're like, we only see you an hour a week. You go into the real world, and everything we talked about that week is essentially unlearned. We have to talk about it every week for months before concepts start to soak in, which is just the human brain. But thinking about that on like the larger level here of like these kids who their brains are so malleable,
Mhm.
you are working so hard to teach them any level of autonomy, and then they go home and are enabled.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And how reinforcing that is for them.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't do it.
Right.
And they do it for them. Or I know, like, my kids do this. Like, my husband is very particular about things and will have the kids do something. And if they don't do it the way that he likes it, he'll redo it.
Mhm.
Or if he asks them enough times and they won't do it, he'll do it for them. And he's working on this, but they are to the point now where I'm like, okay, it's the end of the day. Let's pick up our toys. Let's whatever. Like, dad's coming home and we'll have dinner and whatever. Nah, we're not going to do it. I'm like, what? No, you need to pick up. Dad'll just do it when he gets here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hmm.
And
And
they're
that's what,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's what's happening in the classroom too. Like, I get this question so often. Do we have to do this? Yeah, you do have to do it. I wouldn't have just spent 10 minutes making sure you understand the directions if it was something that you didn't have to do.
The audacity.
We would
Right?
never have been able to say that. Like
No.
it was you just do what you're told. I talk about
Right.
this with my parents, or like if Madeline gives me like sass and I'm like, I kind of like that. Like, be your own biche. But also, if I would have done that as a kid, I would have been so scared. There's no way. If somebody says you're going to school, you just do it because your mom told you to do it.
Mhm.
The way that my 4-year-old speaks to me, I would have never, and I've told them this, like my kids, I'm like, I never once ever spoke that way to my parents, ever, because I was terrified. Like, I never would have said, fuck off to my parents.
Mm-mm.
But my 4-year-old got that big energy, just walks around here. Fuck off.
Yeah. How then, as a teacher, like you're giving parents this feedback, presumably you're sharing like, but in a nice way, like, well, your
Yeah.
kid's a sasshole, and this is hard, and these are maybe some things you could work on at home. And how do parents respond to this?
Well, it depends. There's a couple different types of parents. There are the
Ooh.
parents who will tell you what you want to hear. So, as I'm saying at conferences, Johnny has a really hard time listening and following directions. I have to repeat it to him many times, and they will say, "Oh yeah, we see this at home all the time and we work on it and we have been practicing and we what can we do? What more can we do? Give me your advice." And then I, tell them what we do in the classroom. Oh, that's great. Well, then they go home and to me, I'm like, wow, those parents were really like receptive and they're really going to work on this. No, they don't. They go home and the same thing just continues to happen. And there's parents that are just silent and they just kind of take it in. Okay. Yeah. There's the parents that will say, well, that's a school problem, that's not my problem kind of thing. And then there's the
Wow.
parents that will say something like, oh gosh, he's not anything like that at home.
Oh, sure.
Exactly.
Oh,
So
is
there
he?
we have had all of the reactions to this kind of feedback. So you never know
Whoa.
what you're gonna get.
I can't even. My kids will get a bad report, and I'm automatically emailing. I'm so sorry we had a rough day. What can we be doing at home? And I'm literally like, let's get on top of this. I don't want it to get worse. Like, I'm so sorry you're dealing with my asshole child.
And what is that about? Like, that's a school problem
Hmm.
where you're not able to take ownership of our stuff.
Yeah. We have behavior is such a hard thing now at school because
Mhm.
so many parents feel that way. They feel like if it's happening at school, well, then it's the teacher that is causing this problem, or it's the teacher that's going to have to deal with this because what am I supposed to do? I'm at home. And it's just kind of, they think of it as just two separate worlds when really, like, there should be follow through and we should be consistent. We should all be on the same page of what's happening in both these places. I think a lot of parents too feel like if their child is misbehaving, that it's a reflection on their parenting. And
Mm.
they take it so personally that they will defend their child kind
Mhm.
of without knowing it because they are so afraid of what that teacher is going to think of them as a parent that they will do anything to just make it seem like I don't know, they'll almost just, like, take the blame, and so then the kid kinda gets off the hook, where the parent is punishing themselves and figuring out what they have to do instead of putting it on the child and saying, "What
Yeah.
are you going to do to fix this? How are you going to change?" And make it their responsibility.
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah. It's interesting. We talked in an interview that we recently did about attachment styles and creating autonomy, and that um the tricky balance at this kind of point with like technology and with post pandemic. I mean, all of our attachment styles got kind of funky during the pandemic, and we're all kind of relearning some of that. But then there's also this piece of like maybe around our generation and then newer parents who are becoming very much more aware of emotions
Mhm,
and making space for emotions, but then sometimes we're doing it a little bit too much of
mhm.
just validating. There's this enabling culture, and it sounds like we've kind of gotten to this point where you're seeing in the classroom is like you need to find the balance of helping your child feel validated for their emotions while also creating space for natural consequences so that they can learn how to problem solve.
Mm.
Right. Yeah,
Hmm.
and even respect for authority too. The
Oh,
couple weeks ago, my son, who's 5, he we were having a discussion and he was not doing something that I had asked him multiple times to do. And so I talked to him in a way that was, probably more forceful than he's usually used to. And he sassed back to me and I said, "Do not talk to me that way." And he turned around and said, "Don't talk to me that way." And in that moment, I thought, oh my goodness, he thinks that we are equals.
Mhm.
He does not understand that I am the authority figure and I get the last say and I get to, make the decisions that are going to affect what he's doing and what's happening in our household. And it's like you said, that's such a balance in parenting where you want to have that mutual respect and you want to treat them the way that you want to be treated and things like that. But how do you also make them understand that you are the authority?
Right.
It's so hard.
Right.
If anybody
you said,
has the answer, please write in because
yeah,
help me.
help me, we're poor.
Help Help me.
We're man. What are some things you wish parents while we're on this track? What are some things that you wish parents would do to help prepare their kids more for school?
I think one of the biggest things is just allow them to be responsible for their own things.
Mhm.
Teach them to be responsible for their own actions and, have them be aware that what they do and say affects more than just themselves.
Mhm.
Mhm.
It makes me think so much of one of our first interviews was someone who does Love and Logic. I don't know if you're
Mhm.
familiar with it, Kat,
Yep.
but
Oh, yeah.
so helpful in these kinds of situations. Like I've been trying so hard to use it and like I'm kind of I don't know. My kids tell me I'm all the time I'm mean because I'm like, "Do you have your water bottle ready for school?" "No." "Well, you need to get it ready otherwise you're not going to have one." And then we go to school and they haven't gotten it ready and they're like, "Wait, we're in the drop-off line. I don't have my water bottle."
Mhm.
Well, I told you 3 times you didn't get it. You didn't put water in it or put it in your backpack, so I guess you're gonna be thirsty today.
Yeah.
Like,
My kids all the time will tell me, oh, my mom forgot to pack my folder, or my mom forgot to put my boots in my bag. And I
Yeah.
correct them every time. I said, no, actually, you forgot to bring your folder to school and you forgot your boots for
Yeah.
recess. It was you that made that decision.
oh,
Mhm.
and it's so hard because I get both sides of it to a point because I am a control freak. And I'm like, I want you to have your stuff. I want you to whatever. And
Mhm.
we all as parents fall into the like, if our kid is acting a fool, that's reflecting on me.
Right.
Like, if you go to school and you have on the most random outfit or the same pants 3 days in a row because you won't wear anything but black sweatpants, then I look like I'm doing something wrong. And that's really hard to let go of, but also so important because if we don't, then we end up teaching our kids that, like, oh, no matter what, you don't have to worry about it because we'll take care of it.
Right.
Like, there's no consequence if you don't fill your water bottle or if you don't pick up your clothes or if you don't do whatever because, like, we'll just take care of it. So then it's learned helplessness.
Exactly.
Right.
You have to,
Exactly.
because you'll do it.
Mhm. Mhm. That's what so I was trying Love and Logic with my oldest, and I said, if you follow through, we've been working a lot on cleaning up your own toys. It's been a very slow process. We're to
Mhm.
the point now where she can be expected to clean up the whole room herself, even her sister's toys. And
Cool.
we got to this place, and I was like, if you do it today without doing your like big, she will have the biggest, most dramatic, like fall to the floor. I think I broke my back. Face.
She's
And I
such
will,
a vibe.
so she's gonna be like a very famous actress. Um, and so she's cleaning, she's getting to this point, she's about to like break her back. And I was like, if you finish it, if you look at your sticker chart, you're gonna get to go to Cane's for lunch. And she was like, oh, word. And then she looks at the last bin of toys and she goes, I'm too tired. She goes over, she grabs her Paw Patrol book, hops up on the couch, and I was like, well, what about canes? You were like so excited. And she was like, you're gonna feed me anyway. And I was like, you're right. You have to eat lunch before you go to school. So, and these are these situations like the anomalies where I'm like, well, what do I do?
Mhm.
Because I am a little grateful that you did clean as much as you did. But then as soon as I like dangled the carrot, you looked me dead in my own eyeballs and put the storage container down and left the room and like got your fuck you Paw Patrol book to read on my couch.
In your living room.
Like it's so close. And then like I'm trying to use this like love and logic thing, like, oh, the natural consequences, you are not gonna get canes. I don't care.
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know why. We don't know how.
No. I deal with
Yeah.
that every day too. Kids don't care about
They don't
their
care about stuff
consequences anymore.
anymore.
They
They
don't
don't
care.
care.
No.
I literally like I've started paying my children for things. Like I just throw money at the problem. Like, what? Like it started with they wanted to earn money for something and I was like, do some chores. So they did and they earned some money and then shots have been a big thing for one of my kids. Like
Mhm.
screaming fit, dreading it, whatever. So I was like, boys, you're getting shots. I'll give you $5 each if you do a good job. It was great. It was the best money I've ever spent in my life. $5 each. And they both sat down, pulled their little shirts up. My middle one, who always gives me the trouble, like cried for a minute, puts his shirt down. He's like, now I get $5. I'm like, yeah, you do. Let's go. So now I'm like, okay, well, do you want to earn some money? I already have money.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you find something that works and so quickly they're over it.
Yeah.
So you just keep finding new things?
What's higher than money?
You want me to
know.
be adaptable?
No, I want one
Ugh.
answer that I can use over and over and over again.
Right.
Forever. The same. I want
Right.
the same thing when she's 16. I want to say, you cannot drink and drive. And if you don't, I'll get you cane.
I'll buy my own canes.
We'll go to lunch together.
Right. Right. She's selling her own feet pics. Doesn't need my money anymore. Yeah. This is the whole pickle. Man, I really
It
brought the
is.
party down because I'm trying to figure out so Emma's 2, she's not going to school anytime soon. Maddie's gonna be on an all-day school next year already.
Mhm.
And we're working so hard on like put your own snow pants on and like get all wintered up for recess. Don't make your teacher do that. Like they have
Yeah.
16 kids to do that with. But
Mhm.
also like I don't want to do it anymore. But I have all these things of like I'm anxious about preparing her for. But it sounds like what I need to do is put that responsibility in her court of like, these are the things you need to learn before all day school.
Mhm.
Let's start practicing them now.
Mhm.
Because why am I trying to freak out about it? I've got enough stuff to freak out about.
Yeah, I agree. Parents are always so worried about, will my kid be ready for kindergarten? Yeah, they're going to be ready. They will, no matter what, because there will be kids there that can tie their own shoes and zip their own coats and put on every single piece of clothing. And there will be kids there that can't even put a shoe on the right foot. So there are kids of all different abilities and they will all be fine. And it's the teacher's job to make them feel loved at school. That is the number one priority because the two things that kids need to know is, am I safe and am I loved? And if the answer to those two questions is yes when they get to school, then they're ready to learn stuff. But until they can feel safe and loved at school, no learning will happen.
Hmm.
Wow, you really give a shit about this.
I do.
Gosh, like, why can't we just pay teachers like $1 million a year?
I wish you could.
Yeah, like what that I mean, that's a whole nother thing is we're probably have already lost a number of teachers and could
Um,
possibly continue to lose more because this isn't a sustainable
mm-mm.
unless you have a partner or some other income coming in. How do you live?
Yeah, you can't survive on it. I know a lot of teachers that have left because of that reason, because they're
Mhm.
single and they just can't live. They can't afford basic things, and
Mhm.
it's crazy. And now, I think another kind of COVID, side effect was parents learned, oh, I can run a school at home or I can teach my kid things at home. And so there's been a dramatic increase of homeschool
What?
where people are pulling their kids from school and just deciding to teach them at home.
Hey,
Yeah,
you're
I just saw, I
crazy.
don't even remember what the statistic was that I saw the other day, but it's alarming of how many students are leaving the school system.
Whoa.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
Mhm. But
What is
then,
it doing? Sorry, go ahead.
but on the other side of things, there's also been an increase of speech and language delays because parents think that they can teach, because a lot of it is they're finding apps that will teach their children and they can practice their reading and they can practice their writing. And yeah, they're hearing those things, but so much of teaching and learning is the face to face interaction, and kids learning to speak is watching your mouth move and watching how you form these sounds and things like this. And kids are not getting that. A lot of parents don't sit down for dinner with their families and with their children anymore and have that dinner time conversation. Mom's on their phone, dad's on their phone, kids are watching their tablets as they're eating, things like that, where the just communication is just non-existent sometimes.
That's the part that we see is the social emotional aspect post
Right.
pandemic, not just with the
Mhm.
adults, but like kids just really struggling with that like mirror neuron part of seeing another person's emotion, being able to read the emotion. How do you appropriately respond to how somebody is feeling?
Mhm.
That how much that has been lagging post pandemic. And then
Yeah.
you're also seeing it in this. People might not realize the science behind teaching. Like you go to school for 4 years, or you get your teaching degree, you cover a lot of stuff.
Right.
I
Yeah.
would have never thought of the speech part or like I'm
Mhm.
sure there's a certain way you even read books.
Hmm.
Ugh, you're really feeling that like overworked, underpaid, underappreciated portion of the teaching profession, but also really seeing again like your passion for it, like you really, really care. It almost seems like you're kind of sad about where it's headed and what you're seeing in the classroom. It just
Yeah.
keeps bringing me back to like how do we support our teachers?
Mhm.
What can we do?
Yeah. It is. It's definitely sad. And I think one really big thing is education is not a priority in a lot of people's eyes anymore. There are so many people who kind of almost brag about, yeah, well, yeah, I went to college, but I don't do anything related to my degree.
Mm.
There's people that are making millions of dollars that dropped out of high school, things
Mhm.
like that, where so many people are saying, I don't need school. So what is the point of me going day after day? And kids pick up on that. If
Mhm.
you, as a parent, are saying things about not using your degree or not thinking school is important, your kids are picking up on it and it will not be important to them.
Mm.
We have kids that are missing so many days of school just for parent requests is what it comes up on our screens when we take our attendance. And when the kids come back, we'll say, "Oh, where were you yesterday?" And they say, "Well, mom and I we wanted to go shopping, so we just took the day off." Or
go shopping?
my brother had a dentist appointment, and so we all just went, and then we went to lunch afterwards and things like that. So parents don't see school as a priority. They see it, honestly, a lot of them view it as daycare,
Yeah.
as free daycare, something to keep their kids busy while they can go do their whatever they do during the day. If it's work, if it's not work, whatever it is. And they feel like they can take their kids whenever they want to for whatever reason. And then when kids see that, then they, again, don't think school is important, and they don't put in their effort, and they don't think it's necessary.
My God. Back in my day, when we went to the dentist, we had to go right back to school.
Right? Exactly. Kids will go to dentist appointments at 8 a.m. and they'll take the entire day off. It's like,
That is
no,
so wild.
come back to school.
Whoa. Then also it peeves me when people are like, "Oh, school is free." It's like, it's not fucking free. Your taxes pay for that. And
Right.
if you want to have your taxes go somewhere important, make it important.
Oh,
How does that not calculate?
Right. Yeah. So if you want to support your teachers, start there. Start making it seem like school is a priority and school is important. And let them overhear you talking about the good things that their teacher is doing and the good things that their teacher is teaching them. Point out things. Oh, wow, Mrs. Campbell really must have been working hard with you and learning how to read this word. And once kids start to see you valuing the teacher's work, they are going to appreciate it so much more, and it'll just make our jobs easier. They actually
Right.
respect us.
mm-hmm.
Cheese and rice. That's so icky to hear. Like, just respect your kid's
I know.
teacher.
I know.
So much of it though is like the adults in their lives example.
Mhm.
Like they're gonna, especially in your case, they're second graders. So
Mhm.
they're gonna pick up on whatever is happening in their environment. So if
Yeah.
their environment thinks school's a joke, then that's how they're gonna behave.
Yeah. And a lot of parents too will judge schools based on their own experiences in school. And parents, they've been out of school, especially elementary school, for so many years that it has drastically changed. And school when they were in second grade is not anything like what school is now when their children are in second grade, and they don't see that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Totally. I have been talking to people about this is like, I remember in second grade pulling out the like cards at the library and then like
Oh yeah.
sifting through, and then you go look up your book. I'm like, that was so
Oh.
fun to me.
Yeah.
Do a decimal system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And everyone in my neighborhood that's in elementary school, they get a tablet at school that they take home. So you get like issued I think it's an iPad, but
Sure.
some districts do tablets and some do iPads. I don't want to misrepresent my school district. I'm not sure what electronic device it is, but they get one and it's for the whole school year and you take it home with you. That's how you do your homework. They don't do homework on paper. It's
Mhm.
all on this app that like your parents and your teacher can watch you do your classwork on
Mhm.
the tablet and actually see like what you did, and it tracks like if you looked up an answer because you're not supposed to, like that kind of stuff is like,
Right.
this is so intense.
My gosh.
Yeah.
So
It just
weird.
doesn't feel like magical anymore.
Right.
Tablet. That's another thing. Like, I try to limit screen time, and then like my husband's always like, "Well, they need to know how to use an iPad or a tablet at school right away." So, I'm like, God,
Yeah.
what a weird balance.
I
Mhm.
know. I kind of have mixed feelings about the use of tablets and things like that in school too. The district I teach in is very rural, so we don't have, devices that we check out to our, at least elementary school. Middle and high school, they do have Chromebooks that they take home. But in elementary school, we have so many kids that don't have internet access that it's not even worth doing that. So we have Chromebooks we're 1-to-1 in our classroom, so we have enough for each child to have their own, but the most valuable teaching is not done with kids doing their work on Chromebooks. It's doing it in partners and groups and hands-on things and all these other things that are so important to their social learning as well as their actual learning too.
Right. Right. Yeah. How do people socialize if you're only communicating over technology, or that's like all you're used to when you're face to face with people? I don't know. Kids are already kind of awkward. Like,
Yes.
Let's be honest, they're all weird.
so you survived a pandemic. You teach the second grade.
You keep your own children alive.
I sure do. Yes.
You're reigning tennis champion.
Undefeated
Undefeated.
since 2000, the year 2000.
Woo!
That is almost 24 years.
I don't want to hear that.
Sorry, excuse me.
Excuse me, ma'am, that's offensive. Don't talk like that.
Sorry. I didn't mean to say the whole number.
Rude.
Since the year 2000, you've been undefeated in tennis. You still make a mean. What are those called? Mixed CD. It's a burning the CD.
A burnt CD.
Yeah,
CD.
like Napster or whatever that is.
LimeWire.
Kat, thank you so much for the work that you do for Americans.
Literally, no thank you could be enough. Like,
Well, thank you for appreciating that.
the teachers. I appreciate the teachers so hard, and I wish I could appreciate them with dollars, but I don't have any. So
You pay your taxes.
I pay my taxes, but I want the teachers to make more money. Oh,
Please.
thank you for coming on. Thank
you for having me.
Thanks for
Talking.
teaching us.
Doing the late. This is our first late night episode. We're in our jammies.
Yeah, thanks for staying up late with us.
Oh, you got it.
It's almost 10 o'clock, you guys.
Yes.
We better get to bed.
We gotta get to where our kids are gonna be up in like 6 hours.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Lord.
All right. Thanks for listening to another episode of The Shit Show. Just them up. And good night.